Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to cover something that's a little bit different than anything we've covered so far. Have you ever gone out to take pictures and there wasn't a cloud in the sky, or it's just so bright that everything in the sky is blown out and there's no depth and there's no detail and it's just not interesting? Well, Photoshop and a company called Skylum both have programs out that do a feature called sky replacement, where you can replace the sky with dramatic looking skies, regular blue skies with clouds, sunsets, all sorts of things. So today we're going to take a look at both of those programs and some of the pros, the cons, and the features of them. So let's get started. All right, so as I stated before, we're going to cover these two programs that both have sky replacement features. So if you don't have a cool sky, or say you went out to shoot and there was not a cloud in the sky, but you want to add clouds to your image, then you can go into the sky replacement feature and you can make these images look amazing, actually. So we're going to cover Photoshop and Luminar AI, and Luminar AI is a program that came out just a little while ago. And they were the first to really feature the sky replacement feature. And they use artificial intelligence, which is what the AI stands for, to try and to help the user figure out exactly what their image should look like. Because Photoshop is most popular, we're going to go ahead and start with Photoshop. All right, so I've picked 4 images here. We're going to use the same 4 images for both Photoshop and Luminar AI. That way we're comparing the same thing from both programs. Now, this isn't a review. I'm not paid by Adobe or by Luminar to do this thing. I just wanted to kind of go over it and see what kind of cool features it actually has. So this is the Photoshop interface. If you haven't seen this before, I'm going to do some courses on Photoshop and how to use it and things like that in the future. So you pick your images and you go here to edit, and it's got this button down here and it's called sky replacement. So when you click on that, you'll get a pop-up window here, and then your picture will load for a minute, and then you'll notice that the sky just changed. So it took whatever picture was in here and it stuck it in the sky here. And so that's not the only option you have. If you click on this drop down and you scroll down, you'll see you have blue skies with clouds. Then you've got what it calls spectacular. So you got a rainbow and some sunsets down here. All right, and then there's just a specific sunset section down at the bottom. All right, so we're going to go ahead and just stick with the one that came up here, and you'll notice that around these edges here, where it's a really sharp edge, it does a really good job of cutting it out and putting the sky back there without making it look like the sky is fake or wasn't there to start with. All right, so let's pick a different image here. So this image I chose because it has some really sharp edges at some spots, but down here in the plants, it can get pretty dicey when something's trying to replace back there or mask, because there's so many little small areas. So we'll go ahead and see what it can do in Photoshop with that. So we'll hit sky replacement here. And this is a really good example of what it can and can't do initially. So you'll notice that back here in this section, there's still some blue from that original sky. Right here on the edges, there's some ghosting. And then back here in this bush, there's some blue left from that sky. So what you can do is you can actually shift the edge of that, and you'll notice that it fills in most of those areas. So let me go back to where it was, and then back again. So it does a really good job. It even fills in some of this here in the bush where it's really, really small, and then it filled in this whole area back here. So even if you do have plants and things that are really small edges and really fine detail, it does a pretty good job of covering those up. Let's zoom in and actually see what it looks like. So let's zoom in on the plants there. So you'll notice that for what it is, it does a pretty good job. It has some of the sunset back here, and it's gone around most of those areas, which is fine, especially if you're if you're not looking at it zoomed in, you're not going to notice that detail isn't there. All right, so this one, the sky's really blown out. The sun was right over here on the left-hand side. And so there's like zero anything in the sky, zero depth. It just looks horrible. So we're going to try this sky replacement and see what we can come up with. So whatever sky that you used last, that's what's going to be in this box initially. And you can change that to whatever you want. So we're going to go down here. Let's try this. No. All right, that looks pretty good. So you'll notice that it brightened up the sky in the background, and it almost matches the foreground here where the sun was already shining. But if it doesn't do that, you can actually change the amount of brightness of that sky so that you can try and match the brightness of whatever your foreground is here. You can change the lighting adjustment. You can make it brighter, or you can go darker, depending on what you want your image to look like and how realistic you want it to look. The idea of this is not to make your image look fake. Nobody wants to see a fake image, so try to make it as realistic as possible. And if you can't do that, then maybe you should probably switch to a different image or go take something else. All right, and the last image I wanted to try here was this image of part of the city here. There's a bunch of restaurants and apartments back there, but they have a lot of pointy tops to the buildings and a lot of small gaps in between. They've got some metal things sticking out on the top here, and I just wanted to see how well the sky replacement did with those edges in the background as well as the foreground rocks here. So let's go ahead and hit this sky replacement. Let's see what happens. All right, so there's the sky I put in. Let's change it to something else. Let's go here. Let's try. Let's try this one. There we go. That's a good example. All right, so you'll see that I put in a new sky here. It looks pretty good, but if you zoom in, you'll notice right around here, it almost blends in with the actual building itself. So it's kind of hard to see here, but when you go out and zoom back out, you can see it that the clouds almost look like they're covering the top of some of these buildings. And then you lose some of the detail in the pieces of the buildings that are sticking up. So it doesn't do a very good job when you have the super fine detail of covering that up, but you can kind of fix that with the sky replacement feature. If you go back to the sky replacement, you can shift the edge of the sky up or down. And then what you can do is fade the edge a little bit. And so when you get to a spot where you think that, see, now that doesn't look like it's as much a part of the sky. Right? And then this kind of evens out here and you can't see as much of this sunset in the buildings down there. All right, so that's Photoshop. It's pretty simple. It's pretty easy. So now let's take a look at the other program, which is Luminar. So here's Luminar AI. And you can see it up here. It's made by a company called Skylum, and the AI is using artificial intelligence, as I said before. Okay, so here's the first image. It's the same image as the one we were using before. Zoomed in on accident. All right, so for this image, we're going to go ahead and go over here, and there's a creative button. It looks like a paint palette. If you click on that, it has Sky AI here at the top. And this is the only thing we're going to cover for today, just because I wanted to compare the two. So for this one, it doesn't show you pictures like in Photoshop. I kind of like that Photoshop shows you a preview of what you're getting to look at. But here, it doesn't do the same thing. So for this, I've already chosen some images just so that it has some good comparison with Photoshop. So this, we're going to use Dramatic Sunset number 4 for this image. And I like it because of where the sun is, and it shines right through this gap in the rocks here. But you can see it does a pretty good job of putting the sky at the horizon here, and then it does a pretty good job on the edges as well, all the sharp edges. What you can do is you can actually relight the scene here, make it darker or brighter. You can change the lighting of the sky. You can actually stick the sun center thing here, turn it up like that, change the sun ray length, penetration, and there you go. All right, so it does a really good job, just like Photoshop did, of putting a sunset in there. All right, now this image, remember in Photoshop initially, it had some ghosting here on the edges, and it didn't fill in these blue spots in between the bushes here. Let's see how Luminar AI does with this. So we'll go back up here to the sky selection, and we're going to pick Dramatic Sky number 3 for this one. All right, so you'll notice though, for Luminar AI, it does a really good job filling in these areas. The blue isn't there anymore. And we can actually do this, and you'll see on this side over here, there's blue, and then as you roll it across, it changes to the gray that was in the sky before. So you can see it right back here. The blue changes to the gray from the sky, and it does a really good job of covering that. Right. So you all remember this one from the last one. It's super blown out. Sky is super blown out. We put a nice sunset on it. But I want to show you a really cool feature of Luminar AI. Here in Luminar, you can do a galaxy, starry night, and storm chasing. So the storm chasing is a bunch of lightning and stuff and really, really crazy storm clouds. Starry night is exactly what you'd think, but this galaxy one, it's pretty cool. So it puts the galaxy back there, and you'll notice that it even darkened the rocks in this image. They were so bright before, and you could see that it actually darkened that image. So you can do that. You can actually darken it even more if you want. You can actually make it look a little bit more realistic, and then click that off. That way it looks like it was actually dark wherever you were. So that's a really cool feature. I'll show you too, just so you can see it, what the storm chasing one looks like. There's a bunch of them. I don't think they look very realistic, but it's still kind of crazy. You relight the scene, make it look a little brighter, a little darker. Make it look like there was actually a storm there. But so that's a pretty neat little feature, but like I said, I don't think it looks very realistic. All right, so last but not least, we'll do this one, the one with the buildings and the things on top. And so we're going to go over here to sky selection. We're going to pick sunset number 3. And I liked it because it had the sun right behind the buildings here. But you can actually see the top of this building. It's not covered up by the clouds like it was in Photoshop. And it fills in. You can see pieces of the top of these buildings a little better. And what's really cool, once again, is you can place the sun center right there if you want. And you can actually turn it up a little bit, change the length. You can actually change how big it is, how small it is. There's so much you can do in here. You can change the number of the sun rays. You can make it warmer to match the scene if you want. And then you can click off of it, and you can see your finished image. So here we'll do a little comparison. So there's the before, and there's the after. So it's a really neat feature. Not sure how much I'm going to use it. I had to pick a specific day to go out and take these pictures so that there wasn't a nice sky. So it was kind of a little difficult to do that here. There's usually clouds in the sky, or it's been raining the last few weeks. So that's just some of the features of those. So if it's something you think you could use, you could pick up either program. Creative Cloud, you can get a photographer's membership with Photoshop and Lightroom for about $29 a month. Luminar AI is a little more pricey, but you pay for it once. So I think it's $49.99. But I'll put links down in the description so you guys can check it out. So did you like what you saw? Did you learn something new? Did you even know these two programs did sky replacement feature? If you think that you can use one of these programs in your photography work, comment below which program that you think you would use and why. And also, if you like the content and you want to see more, please like and subscribe to our channel so that we can keep providing these videos for you. And thanks for watching.